It's loading.
It says it's streaming live on YouTube.
Yep, I'm trying to connect it from YouTube to Facebook
Okay.
now. So here we go. All right. I hope it's out there because it's on. Thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. Always a pleasure to speak with you and greatly appreciate everything that you're doing for Arkansas. For the people out there who don't know, one things that I did want to cover is kind of the roles and responsibilities for the Lieutenant Governor state of Arkansas.
Sure. Well, we haven't always had a lieutenant governor, and the lieutenant governor's role is supposed to be, at least in theory, a part-time role the way that legislators are part-time. So you sort of have your primary job, and then you have your second job, which is either being a legislator or being the lieutenant governor. In my case, lieutenant governor takes all the time I can give it. If you told my wife it was part-time, she would say, really? I didn't know that. Because I pour a lot of time and energy into the office. The main responsibilities of the lieutenant governor's role or office is to preside over the Senate during a legislative session, as we just had. Under the Arkansas Constitution, the lieutenant governor is the president of the Senate. So sits in the chair, maintains orders, or runs the Senate when we're in session. The other thing is, if something, God forbid, were to happen to a governor, the governor, even something good, like they get a promotion to be president or something, the way it happened with President Clinton, then the lieutenant governor becomes the governor. And sort of like a vice president in that regard. But those are the main written roles, but that gives a lot of flexibility to someone like me to use relationships that I have and communications to speak out on just about anything and to sort of pick and choose where I want to spend my time. So there's a lot of flexibility in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that for us. And the bulk, or I'll say the issue that we were primarily talking about today is COVID-19 and how it is affecting Arkansas. So do you remember where you were when you first heard about COVID-19?
Let me just mention this too as an aside. The lieutenant governor is elected separately from the governor and doesn't work for the governor. There's no official tie to the governor's office. So
absolutely,
they are independent. I don't remember the first time that it was mentioned on the news as something occurring in China. I remember those news reports, but I do remember that the first time that I was really started to pay attention to what was going on in my life and making sure that I was thinking about it and all of that sort of thing. And that's in early March. I had to go to a meeting in New Orleans, and I actually drove down there.
Okay.
Because I had some flight issues. And at that point, people were not taking steps. It was a little bit early. It was about 2 weeks or so before people really started changing the way they behaved. But I do remember thinking as I went down to New Orleans about the virus, hearing some news reports about the virus, but I had not yet, and people had generally not yet been instructed or advised to take social distancing steps, etc. So it was a little early, but now looking back on that and what happened to New Orleans, that's I probably would have thought differently about it had I known then what we know now about what happened in New Orleans eventually.
Absolutely.
But in any event, when it started, when the news about COVID-19 in the United States started hitting, boy, it came like a tidal wave, didn't it?
Absolutely it did. Absolutely it did. And as being a husband and a father to young children, what has kind of been your approach at home?
Yeah. Well, look, it's a new situation. I'm adapting like you're adapting, like other people are adapting. We're all sort of in this together, figuring it out. I have 3 young children. I have a 2-year-old who's not in
Ah,
school yet. And so the other two, my 10-year-old and 12-year-old, have been directly impacted by it. My
okay.
12-year-old is doing a lot of instruction online day to day, although she's been ill the last week and a half, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But the 10-year-old is also doing a lot of online. He does not have, he's in Little Rock Public School. He doesn't have teachers day to day instructing him online.
Yep.
He uses the system that they have contracted with or for, that allows him to follow his instruction through
Yeah.
videos and what have you. But yeah, so and they often have questions in the middle of the day. I
Yeah.
try not to go out and just hang out in different places and go to different places. You know,
Absolutely.
I'll go to the grocery store and come right back home, sanitize, wear a mask, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I generally try not to be in a position to unnecessarily expose myself. I do a lot of working from this room right here. This is my office in my house, and I spend
Okay.
a lot of time on Zoom and what have you. But so the kids will just pop in here, ask questions, and sometimes they'll work in here while I work as well. And it's been different.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge at times, but in many ways, it's been a blessing
Yeah. Absolutely.
in
Absolutely.
terms
I
of
know it's definitely.
spending more time with my kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think I saw that did y'all go fishing a couple of weeks ago?
Hmm.
Yep. Yep. And that's the
Yeah,
good
we
thing
did.
about Arkansas.
Yeah, we took my friends got a pond, and they were out of town. They were up in, I think it was the first week or two of this.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, maybe the second week, but my friends were out of town. They were staying in a cabin. I think they rented a cabin up in
Yeah.
mountains for a few days, and they said going out to our place and fish.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we've been trying to look for ways to spend more time as a family and try to leverage this for good
Yeah.
in some way. And we have been taking a lot more family walks at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and been going down the street to a grassy area. There's a mosquito. I'm gonna get him. And throwing the football. My son loves football, so that sort of
Awesome.
thing, which has been a blessing.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So as the United States begins to open up the economy, and there's kind of a sense of we know we need to get the economy back on track, but how do you combat that and also ease the feelings of the citizens about amidst the public health crisis?
Yeah. Well, look, it's a challenge, no question, and it's a matter of balance. And we
Yeah,
have one governor at a time, and Governor Hutchinson is the governor, and I'm not gonna question right here publicly what he's doing and what he's
absolutely.
not doing. I think he's done a good job, a great job throughout this process in balancing health with the economic needs of Arkansans. I
Yeah,
think he's done a great job on that.
I
I
agree.
will say, that in terms of the public, this is going to be, it appears, I don't have a crystal ball,
Yeah,
but this appears that this is going to be a balancing act for some time.
absolutely.
We're not going to rip the band-aid off and just go full force right back into normal, no mask, no social distancing,
Yeah,
everything exactly the way it was a couple of months ago. That's not going to happen.
right.
It's going to be a gradual approach. That's what the president's laid out. That's what the governor's laid out. And look, no one can make me be irresponsible, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
even if business A is operating again, I can wear a mask,
Yep.
even if I'm not made to. I can keep hand sanitizer in my pocket, even if I'm not made to. I can social distance within a store, even if I'm not made to.
Absolutely.
So the individual, as we've talked about, and the governor's talked about a lot, the individual plays a critical role here. I have said from the very start, the duration of this pandemic and the severity of this pandemic is directly related to the individual actions of Arkansans and Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
at some level, it is up to me to do what I'm supposed to do to help address and deal with this pandemic.
Absolutely.
That's, and that's going to be the case as we move forward.
Yes.
Did I need to wash my hands 2-3 months ago more than I did? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Do I need to keep doing that like I've been doing? Yeah, I do.
Yep.
And I'm going to continue to do that, So I think that sort of perspective that even though we're going to be opening up the economy more and more and more, we still can apply a lot of the principles that we've been applying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had Dr. Thad Harden on last night from over at Conway Regional, and I myself personally am immunosuppressed. So he said, depending on like you said, depending on the person is kind of what goes on. So I may be wearing a mask longer than someone who's healthy may feel wearing a mask longer. So spot on with exactly what Dr. Harden said.
I mean, look, we've got some, I won't get into all the details, but my daughter has had mono for a week and a half. And we thought at the beginning, we thought it was COVID-19 because on Monday, a week ago from last Monday, she rode her bike, came into the day, 102.5 fever and fatigued. And I just started thinking, oh my goodness. This within an hour, one of my staffers picked up the phone, called me and said, hey man, I've got 102.5 fever. The exact same temperature that my daughter had. I know what my daughter's was because I had just taken it.
Right.
And I said, oh goodness. Yeah. So we started getting her liquids, getting her to go to bed. Next morning, as bad or worse, 103, 104, it was getting high. I was on the phone with several doctors that are her doctor and doctors that are friends during the night. I mean, and the first thing that popped into my mind, of course, is COVID-19.
Absolutely.
So my staff person, whose dad is in the healthcare industry, because he's around healthcare workers a lot, the heroes that are healthcare workers. He went and got tested. And so it was recommended that I take my daughter to get tested. And I had been helping her, take it. What I said to my wife is, look, let's not all get infected.
Absolutely.
Let me be the one. Let's keep her in her room and I'll take her food and stuff. Let's just let one do that. And let's keep the other two kids away. So I went and got tested with my daughter. And fortunately, my staff person within about 4 days was pretty much well. So it was just a virus, some other kind of virus. And I came back negative. My daughter came back negative. But let me tell you, last week was it was difficult. It was very, very difficult. And I am very happy to say that I think we're on the tail end of this mess. But look, this is a real life deal for a lot of families, and they're going through the health related issues, dealing with the health related issues, but they're dealing with the emotional ride of this.
Yeah.
You know, and you mentioned your own personal situation. There's a lot of people out there who they they might not be affected, but
Yeah.
someone else in their family could be exposed to the same exact virus, and it could be debilitating or even deadly.
Yeah.
So this is that's a lot to process emotionally and intellectually,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
that takes a toll.
Yeah.
You know, a buddy of mine said the other day that you don't know pain until as an individual, or you don't really feel pain as an individual until you see your children feel pain and you can do nothing about it.
Absolutely.
And I tell you what, that is true. You know, if I could have transferred all of what was going on to my daughter to me, I would have done it. But it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Fortunately, she did not have that, and we're on the mend around here. But man, yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people are dealing with this, and we just gotta be strong and take the steps necessary to protect each other.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I'm definitely glad that your daughter's doing better and sending continuous prayers to your family there.
Thank you.
Um, we hear a lot of the negative stories, and we kind of touched on it just a bit earlier, spending time with family. What do you think the silver lining in all of this pandemic is?
Yeah, look, it is. Let's just be clear first. It obviously is horrible, terrible,
Yeah,
and tragic in terms of the lives lost and the people impacted in terms of their health and the economy. So many families and businesses have been negatively impacted. Some have been disrupted, which is bad. Some have been devastated.
right.
Um, but I will say this: it has been a blessing to spend more time with my family.
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two, it has given us all the time to think about our day-to-day priorities, what's important to us, and what we considered important a
Hmm.
few days ago or a month or two ago versus now. If what you considered important 3 months ago is the same as today, then that's awesome.
Yeah,
But there are a lot of things that maybe 2, 3 months ago we considered important that now maybe not so much.
absolutely.
So I think we are reassessing our priorities as a result of this. There's no question about that in my life and other people's lives. And so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think that it reminds everybody, not that we need it, particularly as we get older, but it reminds everybody of our mortality.
yeah,
And this goes to the priorities issue, but you have to ask, why am I here? What's my impact?
right.
How am I going to impact the world for good? And in my life, that is all the answers to those questions are all rooted in my Christian faith.
Yeah,
But those type of questions have to be asked, and I think that's a good thing. And we have seen a lot of stories around Arkansas and the country, but particularly Arkansas, of Arkansans helping Arkansans, showing love and empathy and sympathy,
yeah,
and reaching out, providing the most basic needs to people who have had difficulty doing that. We've seen a lot of that. I refer to that as Arkansas grit, but it's something that's been a part of our character for a long time.
yeah,
And, there's a lot of good going on like that in all the states, certainly. But it reminds me there was a survey a few years back that showed that even though we're one of the less wealthy states
yeah,
historically, Arkansans in this particular survey, and I forget who put it out. It may have been the Pew Foundation or one of those sort of groups, but they had Arkansans as #1 in giving per income. So regardless of what your income and wealth is in Arkansas, that survey showed that we give more as a percentage than any other state. We're a very giving, loving state. I think you've seen that on full display, whether it be somebody taking $1,000 or whatever. You can bring her in here. My 2-year-old's running around. Whether it's somebody giving their whole stimulus check for a tip at a restaurant or whatever. There are a lot of stories like that are just very encouraging and reflective of who we are as a people. And I think that's a part of the silver lining. And some communities in the middle of all this have had to be extra resilient because they've dealt with a tornado up in Northeast Arkansas, or straight line winds, for example, all over South Arkansas, Southeast Arkansas, power out, Lincoln County, all over Bradley County, all over Southeast Arkansas. There have been problems with power outages, and so I mean, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of resilience, Sean.
A lot of it. Listen, Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for answering my questions and providing us with the update. Many continued prayers to your family and yourself as you continue to make Arkansas better. Thank you for the work that you do. Anytime that you have an announcement or anything that you want to mention to the people, you always have an open seat right here directly. So I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Maybe I will have shaven next time.
Yeah, and me as well with the haircut.
If I keep growing this through December, maybe I can
look like Duck Dynasty.
Santa Claus.
There you go. There's
maybe I can gain a little more weight. Maybe I can get some more hair. Anyway, God bless you. Thanks for having me on. Happy to do this anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. God bless you as well.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.